Hello everyone and welcome back. My name's Matt Brown, aka the P.K.U Pioneer. So before we get into it, I'd like you to all go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It really helped to us growing the channel and helping more people with the condition and just basically generating awareness, which is key for the community. So I went to the hospital today for my first appointment back, and they took my blood. So it's the first levels since coming back on the diet. So we have a milestone, or at least we have somewhere we can work from. So that was good. I was a little bit anxious about the whole, going to the hospital, but it was brilliant. The nurses were brilliant. It was very quick, very efficient. They all knew what they were doing. And they didn't hang around. It was, all very clinical, and it was good. I felt safe, and it was fine. And so they took my blood. They did a blood spot as well, and so now I have a milestone, something to work back from, and get down to some healthy levels. So we'll see how we do. I thought I was going to be speaking to the dietitian and the specialist, but not there because it's something they do over the phone. So I'll probably speak to them in a couple of days, which will be great. So today I just want to talk to you a bit about going to school with P.K.U and education and things like that. Just some of the experiences I've had, and see if you may have had similar experiences, whether you can relate or it's something you can relate to. And I just thought it'd be interesting. I'd love to hear your stories, and what you experienced when you were at school, college or university. That'd be really great. I'd love to know. My experiences were good overall, but little those did happen every now and then while I was at school, and those things you just can't help but ignore. So it's I just thought you'd be interested and you might want to know. So this is what I've got to talk about today, and I hope you enjoy it. So for the average person or child, school, especially going into like secondary school, high school, that can be quite a daunting thing for anybody really, not to mention anybody with P.K.U, because it doesn't just stop when you leave the house. You're in school and you take it with you. Well, I certainly did. I used to have to take my supplements in to school with me. I had a flask, and I used to bury it deep inside my school bag. Back in the days when it was Maxi Made and Flexi 10, so they were really pungent smelling ones. And back then they were the newest thing. They were like the the new in thing. So I guess we've moved on from then, but I used to be quite daunted by that and taking that in with me, and what if my mate saw me having it, and all this sort of stuff. I remember one time playing at lunchtime, playing basketball, and we were outside on the basketball courts, and you throw your bag down on the pile, as you do when you're a kid, and you just get on with playing basketball. And at the end of the lunch break, you grab your bag and go off to your class. And I did the same. And when it came to the end of the lunch break, I'd gone to grab my bag, and I picked it up, and it was dripping. And I looked inside it, and the flask had cracked, and it busted all over my workbooks, all over all my school stuff, and it was stinking of the supplement, and it, because they can be quite strong smelling, can't they? And it was really sticky and horrible. So later on in the class, I was asked why I wasn't producing my workbook for the lesson, and one thing led to another, and the teacher asked me to pull out my my workbook, and I pulled everything out, and to like the utter horrific moment of the classroom basically watching me have to do this for the teacher. And I pulled it out, and the whole class erupted. It was absolutely terrifying. It really didn't do me any good, and feeling weird and like whatever, it just made that worse. I got a few jibes here and there, and people saying, "Oh, what's that? It stinks!" Like, "Oh, don't go near Matt." And it's what happens when you're a kid, especially at the schools that we went to, at my age anyway. Schools have moved on a bit since then, and the mentality and the way that they're taught is probably a lot different as well. But yeah, it wasn't a very pleasant experience, to the point where I used to have to. It got to a certain point. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. It got to a certain point where the teachers said to me, "We know that you're quite nervous and you worry, your anxiety about being in school when you have to have your lunch break and take your supplements, and you don't want to do it in front of the kids because you don't want them to think you're weird and all this sort of stuff. Because when you're that young, especially back then, kids didn't care, and it wasn't really policed in the way it is today, because today we're a lot more I think we are a lot more PC, and we're a lot more aware of discrimination and things like that, and I think the kids are today as well. We're a lot more switched on to it, whereas back then, so at lunchtime it got to the point where I used to go home for my lunch, because I only lived about 5 minutes down the road, so I'd go home for my lunch and I'd eat it there, and I'd drink my drink there, and then I'd nip back to school again. And yeah, I lived with that for most of it, and it was hard, but that's what you did. The other thing is, what I found and what my family found as well through school and P.K.U is that I wasn't academically minded, and I never really was a massive academic. The teachers used to do assessments of me and stuff like this, and they all knew about the diet, and as in they knew that I had the diet. I don't think they really knew much about it, but they used to try and pass that off against my condition of the P.K.U, and the fact that I wasn't up to certain standards as other people in my class, because I used to struggle with maths quite a deal. I just couldn't wrap my head around it, and the other one was English. So it was English wasn't too bad. Eventually I got stronger in it, and I actually enjoyed English. Maths, I just didn't have I couldn't think in that way for some reason. That it just didn't make that connection. So we had that, and at the same time, whilst the teachers used to try and pass it off against my condition back then was healthy. I had a strict diet. I was hitting my levels. I was healthy. I was a healthy P.K.U child. So cognitively, I was where I needed to be at that time for my own progression. And the doctors used to say that they didn't agree, because we used to, back then it was at Pendlebury Hospital in Manchester, with a doctor called Dr. Wraith. It was a lovely man. I can remember him. Sadly, he's not with us anymore. But my mum and my dad used to talk in length about it, and he assured me that, although I have P.K.U, we're at a stage where I was quite healthy, and it wasn't solely because of my P.K.U. There might be an element to it, he said, but they can't completely blame it on that. And so, there was a bit of backwards and forth, and so high school in terms of academics didn't go very well, although I was skilled in other areas. I was a lot more physical, a lot more creative. I was really good at art. I always have been good at art. I was good at sports, and all the resistant materials, woodwork and all that kind of stuff I was really into, and I could do it. I understood it. My mind got it. And that to me was a way of showing the fact that I get it just as much as anybody else gets it. Just because I can't do maths doesn't mean it's because of my diet. So we left that there then, really. And also, looking back, I mean, I feel there might have been a little bit of truth towards the stunted learning curve in relation to P.K.U. Only because later in life I feel my education developed, because I later on in life I went to university and I got a degree, bachelor of science degree, and then recently I went on to do my postgraduate degree. So I progressed. I moved forward and went into an academic program, and I saw it through. So there's that there that maybe hints to me as if you progress at your own rate and at your own physical development. And I feel as if I became more and more academically minded as I went on. I know it was a little later, but nevertheless, I conquered it. All I'd say to maybe offer a little bit of advice maybe to new families with P.K.U is maybe don't worry so much. Just support your children as you normally would, as anybody would. And just understand their own physical rate and how they progress. You'll get to know that. But yeah, nevertheless, we kind of have our own development, and that's what we have to recognise. P.K.U is something we're born with and something we live with and conquer, and we make it our own. And until some wonder drug is created that will supposedly cure the entire P.K.U community, we will remain ever strong. P.K.U strong. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope in some way that helped you, and maybe you can relate to that and it's helped you somehow. It was just a few little experiences and a few thoughts on how P.K.U affected my education, and how I progressed, up until today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and please like, share and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and we can get it sent out to more people with P.K.U and increase the awareness for the community, because awareness is key. Okay, and as ever, stay safe and take care, guys. Bye. Bye.